Hello everyone. Today our speaker is Adriano Lo Turco, a senior market analyst at AgroConsult analytical company from Brazil. We will speak about past and current weather conditions and their impact on the future crop of soybeans and corn and Brazilian export in season 2022-23.
Hi Marina, thanks for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here for this conversation. I'm happy to share my and AgroConsult's view about what's going on in Brazil and what happened in the previous season and what we are expecting for next year.
Last week, weather conditions in southern Brazil were unfavorable, if not dangerous in some regions. Recent floods. Could you please tell us more about the impact it has on the ongoing sowing campaign?
Well, actually, what happened in Brazil this past 2 or 3 weeks, not only 1 week, but a little bit longer than that, we had a lot of rains in the southern Brazil that it's not impact a lot the summer season in Brazil. Okay, because summer corn is already planted, or most of them is already planted, and soybean planting in the states that are most affected are not yet ready to plant. Okay, the biggest impact on with the floods is the wheat campaign that Rio Grande do Sul, the southern state of Brazil, is having a lot of floods and a lot of rains. And this is impacting in yields and quality of the wheat that it's going to be harvested in the next weeks. So for the next season, not a big impact so far, but on the wheat season, we have already losses close to 1 million tons of wheat due to that.
At the same time, a drought persists in other parts of your country. What are the possible effects of these dry conditions on the future crops of soybeans and corn?
So far, for beans, we have not a big impact in terms of yields and acreage. Okay, planting is a little bit delayed in central Brazil, mainly in Mato Grosso and Goiás states. Mapito region, which is farther north in Brazil, the planting will start in a few weeks, so there is no impact. And Paraná state, the planting is ahead of a normal pace. Okay, but central Brazil, so far, this little delay that we are seeing due to the drought is not impacting the soybean crop. Okay, of course, that if the drought persists, we may have some problems. But so far for soybeans, it's not a big issue. However, and this is the big question in Brazil, how this delay can impact on the winter corn that will be planted from January onwards, because it's planted after soybeans, and if the soybean planting is delayed, will impact on the ideal window of opportunity for farmers to plant. And if they cannot plant by end of February, then we put the winter crop in jeopardy in the central Brazil. So far for soybeans, not a big deal, but there is a huge problem that we are facing, and we are closely monitoring how this will impact on the second corn crop. Okay, it's difficult to say that if it's gonna have a big impact, but it's something to be closely monitored, because not only weather is impacting the farmer's decision, but also the question of prices. So there is some factors in the market that can change the farmer's idea on what they will plant from January, February onwards. Okay, but so far, not a big problem, but something to be very closely monitored.
Last week, disruptions of barge traffic on the Amazonian rivers were reported. How significant is the role of these rivers in the shipment of agri-commodities?
Well, I think first thing we need to have in mind is that Northern Arch in Brazil represents about 20% of the grain exports in Brazil. Okay, we are in the peak of the export season of corn, and due to this drought, the barges are carrying less cargo, and the convoys has to be smaller because of they need to do more maneuvers during the transportation. So they are transporting less cargo, and this is impacting the cargo availability to load bulk vessels. Okay, this is the worst drought in 120 years in the Amazon River. Okay, and we have reached the lowest level this week. Actually, Monday or Tuesday this week, we reached the lowest level. And due to that, several traders are switching loading port from northern arch to mainly Santos and, if possible, to southern ports to accommodate this. Okay, it's not a huge volume, but yet we are having some cargo shifting from different ports. Okay, as far we understand, and yesterday there was some reports in Brazil that specialists believe that we have reached the worst conditions this week, and from now, if the situation does not improve, probably won't get worse. Okay, so it's bad, but seems like we have touched the bottom. Okay, at least we expect that. The impacts in the flow and the volume shipped, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. We may have some delays, and moving vessels from Northern Arch to Santos may have some impacts on the lineups in Brazil and waiting times. But in terms of volume, I don't think it's going to be a big problem if the situation stops to deteriorate. If it gets worse, then we may have some problems with volumes. Okay. One thing that is important, that premiums in Brazil, FOB premiums, have already increased due to this. Okay.
You told that Brazil is at the peak of the export season now. What are your expectations for the future supply from the Brazilian exporters in the global market? I mean, like for the rest of the season.
For sure, we don't have lack of product in Brazil. What we may have, as we were talking about before, is lack of logistics. Okay, so far we have had some constraints, but nothing that have had a big impact in terms of volumes. Okay, but in terms of product availability, is not a big deal. We produced almost 160 million tons of soybeans and almost 140 million tons of corn this year. So Brazil can supply the global market. We here at AgroConsult, we expect that from January to December, Brazil will export more than 100 million tons of soybeans and close to 55 million tons of corn this season. Okay. Soybean meal as well, we are working with numbers above 22 million tons. And at the end of the year, considering all the bulk cargoes, grains, sugar, meal, wheat, and everything, we expect Brazil to export more than 205 million tons during 2023. As I said, we have had some higher freight this year because of lack of logistics, but in terms of volume, the world is completely okay with the volumes that Brazil can export.
Can you please provide the most memorable insights from the 2022-23 export season?
Well, it's the first season that we are. I think the first memorable idea that comes to my mind is that for the first time, Brazil is the number one corn export in the world. Normally, this position belongs to U.S., but due to huge crop in Brazil and some constraints in U.S., Brazil is exporting more corn than ever and is number one this year. Okay, I think this is the first time. The first thing. At the same time, we expect to be the first year that Brazil will export more than 100 million tons of soybeans. Record volumes of soybean meal, record volumes of sugar, wheat as well. So in terms of exports, Brazil is doing a great job. One thing that is important as well is that since Brazil signed the agreement, the phytosanitary agreement with China in 22, since November, December last year, Brazil is exporting huge volumes of corn to China. Brazil is already the main supplier of soybean to China, and might become the number one exporter of corn to China as well. I think this is also very important to note. One other thing that is important is not exactly related to export, but it's related to countryside of Brazil. As I had mentioned, we had record crops of soybeans and corn. Our storage capacity went far below what is needed. So we saw a lot of corn being stored at open air. Okay, if we have the same volumes next season, we may have more difficulties with storage capacity in Brazil. But bottom line, what I think it's very important that even with this challenge in the logistics, Brazil is doing a great job and shipping what was sold with quite decent waiting times, less than expected due to these huge volumes. So I think in general, we can say that it was a great year for exporters in Brazil.
Thank you very much. It was nice to speak to you. I will gladly see you in our next interviews.
Okay, nice to be with you as well, Marina. It was a great pleasure. Hope to see you next time, and could bring more information about our crop in Brazil. That, as I said, it's with planting undergoing, and we can bring some more insights to our audience. Okay, thank you.